Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I'm your host, Adam Portrais, and I'm joined by Sweet Shonesy from the internet.
AVP, y'all.
And, of course, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly predalien.
I don't know what that means.
Predalien, buddy. Predalien.
Oh, I see. Here's the thing, everybody.
Spoilers, Bruce.
Yeah, let's keep it on the down low. We will be spoiling everything for those of you that are new to this program, and for those of you that are new to this program, every single month we say, "Hey, what's up, people that support this show over at Patreon.com/HMP? What would you like us to watch?" And we put it up to a vote. They vote on it, and this month they have voted that we shall watch Alien vs. Predator from 2004.
And what was this up against?
Oh my gosh. Let me look. It was up against some really good movies. Let me pull it up. I'd forgotten to get this ahead of time.
Because it makes sense that this would win just because, you know, it's the one that has the most, you know, like, oh, I'm an Alien fan, I'm a Predator fan.
Yes.
You know, like that kind of thing. So it would make sense that it gets the most votes, but it's a weird one for sure.
Yeah, so it goes like this: Alien versus Predator. Then we got 1010, Return of Swamp Thing, and bringing up the rear, Two Guns. So 1010 was a lot closer than you would think.
I think if you'd asked me to gamble on it, I would have placed my money on 1010.
Well, they'll just have to wait a little bit longer and instead have to listen to our review of Alien versus Predator. Here
AVP, y'all.
is
AVP,
the trailer.
Y'all.
7 days ago, one of my satellites over Antarctica discovered a pyramid.
Where exactly on the ice is this?
It's not on the ice. It's 2,000 feet under it. Let's make history.
Oh my God. Whoever built this pyramid believed in ritual sacrifice.
Did you hear that?
What was that thing? What's going on? Let's go!
What did you say this room was called?
Sacrificial chamber.
This story's all here. This whole thing was a trap.
They're not hunting us. We're in the middle of a war.
They're using us as bait.
You're ugly! Son of a...
That was the trailer for Alien versus Predator.
Aliens versus the Predators.
You heard all of the sound effects and the screaming and the shooting, and because that's pretty much all this movie
That's
is.
all it is.
But it's got to come from somewhere, doesn't it? I don't know how we're going to figure this out. Oh, wait a second. I forgot we got Bruce here. Bruce, Aliens versus Predator, comic books. Say it ain't so.
Well, comic books love a crossover. Perhaps more than any other medium, comic books love a crossover. Probably it started as innocuously as having Silver Age Flash meet Golden Age Flash and Flash of Two Worlds, which of course planted the seeds for DC's multiverse, or having a battle between Hulk and Thor lay down the groundwork for the founding of the Avengers. I proudly own a comic in which Superman meets Alan Funt, giving kids the Action Comics Candid Camera crossover they were clamoring for back then. And, of course, the high cotton of comic book crossovers came in the form of Marvel DC co-events like X-Men meeting Teen Titans or JLA facing the Avengers. But sadly, corporate interests and or policies are preventing any more of those Marvel and DC crossovers. So DC's taken to crossing over with the indies. Green Lantern has crossed over with Star Trek, though in fairness, the X-Men did it first. The Justice League has squared off with the Masters of the Universe. Batman has had at least 3 adventures with the Ninja Turtles, one of which has spawned an animated movie we're yet to cover. Wonder Woman has met Jamie.
It never will.
Oh, we will at some point.
Nope.
Sean will be gone at some point, and Bruce and I, when Dad's away, the kids will play.
Wonder Woman has met Jamie Summers. The Adam West version of Batman has crossed paths with the Green Hornet in the pages of floppies.
Hey, I don't mean to knock you off of your train here, Bruce. I'm sorry, but I got to put a pin in that. The Bionic Woman met Wonder Woman at one point.
Yes, Wonder Woman 77 is a comic, and they had a crossover of Wonder Woman 77 Bionic Woman.
Oh, it's a new thing.
It's maybe 3 years old.
Yeah, okay.
And then, of course, Batman 66 is the Adam West version of Batman who crossed paths with the Green Hornet. But despite all those examples, the event we're here to discuss today is the Dark Horse Comics event, Alien versus Predator. And the comic that was published all the way back in 1989 when Predator was fresh and Alien was only up to like 3, I don't know, maybe 4 movies. I really don't know how many Alien movies there are.
It was just 2 at that point.
All right. Written by Randy Stradley, art by Chris Warner. This crossover was the hit America didn't know it needed. The setting in the comic story is very different than the one in the movie, but story similarities are there. The comic takes place on a planet named Ryushi, where a group of human colonists led by Machiko Noguchi are raising space cows on a space farm or something. What these space cowboys don't know is that Ryushi is a traditional hunting ground of the Predators, and they're returning for their initiation rites. On board the Predator ship, the prey are prepared. An alien queen lays eggs for delivery to Ryushi. Somehow the space cows get molested by facehuggers, and the space cows breed a new strain of aliens. The Predators start hunting the humans, and then when the aliens burst out of the chests of the cows, they fight the aliens instead. And a human, that Machiko person I mentioned previously, teams up with the head Predator to kill aliens. Having proven sufficient valor, the human is blood-marked and accepted into the Predator clan just before Predators take off and leave Machiko as the sole inhabitant of the planet. And when a comic is a hit, you don't just let it end. So Dark Horse continued on with Alien Predator Deadliest of the Species, written by Chris Claremont, that came out in 1992. Alien vs. Predator, Blood Time came out in 94. Alien vs. Predator, Booty was released in 96, and sadly wasn't as erotic as the title would lead Adam to believe. Also, when a crossover with, why have a crossover with only 2 characters when you can add more? The 4-way cross, Witchblade, Aliens, Darkness, Predator came out in 1999.
That's the 1990s thing I've ever heard in my life.
How about this one? Alien versus Predator versus the Terminator, which debuted in 2000.
Oh, Lord.
There's Superman and Batman versus Alien and Predator. That came out in 2007. And my personal favorite is probably Predator versus Judge Dredd versus Aliens, Splice and Dice from 2016. The truth is that since 1989, it's rare that a year goes by without some form of an Alien and Predator crossover comic. Just to put that in perspective, that's 31 continuous years of Alien/Predator comics. They actually started before Predator 2 was made. It's almost like they were meant to be a pair from the start, which they weren't, but good luck convincing that to archaeologists in about 2,000 years after they've studied thousands of pages of historical documents courtesy of Dark Horse.
I like the idea, too, that like we got so far into the future that they look at movies and just go like, no, that was the past.
Did you guys notice it's hard for me to say the word predator?
Yeah, it was a little off-putting, but I
struggle to say predator.
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 So, yeah, I remember there just being a lot of the comics were always kind of omnipresent, you know? You always kind of saw them around. This project as being a movie was bandied about for years. We were talking during the Dinger Zone about like the Wizard days and things of that nature, and they were always talking about Alien versus Predator in some way, shape, or form. But like, oh, wouldn't this be a movie that we got to get all this together? Why are the stars not aligning and everything? And it took till 2004 for it to happen, and maybe it should have just stayed in the pages of comics. I don't know, because this one, Alien vs. Predator for 2004, is brought to us by a Paul W.S. Anderson. Now, that's not the same Paul Anderson that does, fantastic movies like Boogie Nights and Hard Eight and, The Master and all these fantastic works. He's the guy who does all the crap.
And his middle initials are awfully close to the word Wes Anderson. We've talked about my confusion with Paul Anderson, Wes Anderson, and Paul W.S. Anderson.
Well, and three guys who could not be more dissimilar from each other, which is the best part.
But I will say, you would have my money opening night if there was a Wes Anderson Predator Alien movie.
Oh, 100%. Just take my money now for that.
The weird thing about Paul W.S. Anderson is that he almost was great. He came, like, his first movies were it was kind of like, oh, you know what? Like, this could go somewhere. Like Mortal Kombat isn't great, but the next thing he does is Event Horizon, and it's like, that movie has the weirdest ending of a movie ever. But then
there's a lot of great moments in Event Horizon,
right? And he built from that, and then he goes into Soldier, which is almost a good movie, and then he starts doing the Resident Evil movies, and it's all over.
The first Resident Evil movie is okay, and the only reason to watch after that first movie is to just watch the insanity and like backflips that they try to go through to make that storyline, make sense. That's the only thing that's worth it, and that one's just going like, what kind of bullcrap are they going to pull out of their butts this time? And sure enough, they kind of do.
That Resident Evil franchise, too, is kind of interesting because it has its base. It shows the value of if you can identify and quantify your loyal base and you're humble enough to work within the budget that you're going to get a profit on, you can make like 7 movies in a franchise that doesn't get a lot of love.
It's true.
And that's the thing. That's Paul.
Adam, I know that you know his filmography. I don't know about you, Bruce, but Adam, do you have a favorite Paul W.S. Anderson movie?
Oh, I don't know a favorite. I don't know that I would go so far as to say it was any favorites or anything, but I don't want to say that Three Musketeers movie.
What about Death Race? Did you like Death Race?
Death Race? Here's not really. No. I'm trying to
you,
figure what I would.
Probably a toss up between this movie and the first Resident Evil.
Probably Event Horizon. Probably Event Horizon. Yeah, that's my best guess is from what I'm trying to remember.
What about you, Bruce? Do you have a favorite one?
That's what I'm looking over his filmography right now, and it would probably be the first Resident Evil movie.
Yeah.
And I don't know what was. I mean, was he was married to Mila Jovovich, right? Or were they just like in
at one point? Which, by the way, on that Resident Evil thing, is like they're all trying to talk about how like important, pretend I guess how important the movie is and like all the like little aspects of everything. And all Jovovich wants to do is just goes, "Look at my boobs, everybody! There's my boobs are in that shot. Are we not going to talk about my boobs?" And I'm just like, they're trying to talk about filmmaking over here, man. I mean, it's not highbrow stuff, but
Well, I don't know what this says.
They're still married, by the way.
Are they still married? Wow.
I don't know what this says about the relationship in 2004, but he chose to direct this while she was making Resident Evil Apocalypse. So they were like fairly simultaneous productions, because I was wondering how in the world she's not Lexa in this movie.
Well, when W.S. Anderson doesn't show up for the the thing, it's not good. Let's talk about our lead here. The character Alexa, played by Sana Lathan? Is that how you say her name? Sana Lathan.
We talked about her before.
Yeah, she's actually surprisingly, because I was watching this going like, I don't know that I recognize her, but then when you go and you look at things she's been in a billion things. You've seen most of them.
Yep. And she was in Blade. She was the hematologist in Blade.
But I'll just talk. So she's kind of our main character here, and I think I don't want to sound bad when I say this.
You never sound good by any statement.
Well, no. What I'm trying to do is just work nicely, because here's the thing: if this was a man in this role, I'd still hate it, because this character is so badly written, and everything that this character does is just a giant cliche.
Also, when you do the thing when your main character has two different jobs, because that's where it starts from. Mm-hmm. Is that she's saying that, I'm an ecologist, but also in my in my spare time I take people to Antarctica,
where I do a lot of like ice climbing and stuff like that. It's just like, what?
That's one job too many there, lady.
Ecologists don't get paid as well as you'd think.
And I've never seen somebody like climb something that's so treacherous looking and looks so fantastic while doing it. She looks great. She barely has a bead of sweat on her. Her hair looks fantastic, and like she's not covered up like it's like you would think it would be absolutely freezing out there. It's like, no, we got to show this pretty lady off climbing up the thing. I don't buy it for a second.
Before watching this movie, and I'd never seen this movie before we watched it for this show. And before watching this, I kind of set the expectation dial somewhere around 30 Days of Night. So going into it with that kind of mindset, it was cliched, but I mean, this is a new generation's version of King Kong versus Godzilla. I mean, of course, it's going to be cliched. We're not there for the subtleties of the writing. We're here to see two monsters fight. So that's
true.
Too bad.
And you bring up a good point, Bruce, which is that I before we really get into it, I do want to say that I was very surprised with my enjoyment of this movie. I thought that I would hate it just because Paul W.S. Anderson is the director of it. But this seems to be before he stopped caring about everything and just, like he actually is trying to make a good movie here.
And also, I just kind of want to talk about the franchises that are crossing streams.
That's precisely what I was going to go. Because I do want to get an inkling on you guys' take separately from this movie, the Alien and Predator franchises as they are.
I'll put it this way. I don't think the Alien people were sitting around wondering how they were going to talk the Predator guys into doing this.
I think that's probably a very accurate statement.
And just something else to put it in perspective. If you look anywhere that has a list of all the Predator movies, they have AVP and AVP Requiem on every single list as part of the franchise. You look at anything that shows a list of all the Aliens movies, they even have those terrible prequels that came out in the last 5 years or so on the list. And then you got to go way down to the double asterisk at the bottom and they can say also crossed over with Predator. It's because Aliens, I just kind of was trying to find a way to put this in perspective. And I've been thinking for unrelated reasons, because we got this Kong Godzilla movie coming up this summer. And I started thinking about monster movie crossovers, that one in specific in the past. And it's a story of where, the first King Kong was the most expensive movie ever made in its time. It revolutionized special effects. I don't know where it stands now, but for a long time, it would be listed as one of the great 100 American films ever made. And Godzilla is charming in its own way, and it has its own statement, but it was made specifically to be as inexpensive as possible. Very limited budget, very tough economy in Japan at the time that was made. And then when you have King Kong versus Godzilla that first time around back in like 59 or 60 or way back when, that's 100% a Japanese production. That's not, the rights holders to King Kong begging to put Godzilla in it. I mean, just look at the quality of the monkey suit and you see. And this is really like the Predator guys somehow, some way got the rights to throw an alien in here. And just going into it, I'm feeling like this is a Predator movie with Alien as a guest star. It's like stunt casting for a movie.
Well, fact of the matter is that both the Alien franchise and the Predator franchise both only have two good movies in them. Besides Alien and Aliens, are there any other Aliens movies that are just like complete bangers? I can't think of one.
Maybe not a complete banger, but some of them are okay.
I'm not trying to be facetious, but what's the other good Predator movie?
Predators.
Yeah, that's true. Predators is halfway decent.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
but it's also, I'm just going to say, like, when you're looking at it in perspective, as I was getting to, I just wanted to look up, like, what, is Alien still remembered as fondly now as it was in the 90s? And, in 2008, the American Film Institute said it was the 7th best science fiction movie ever made, 33rd greatest film of all time, according to another magazine called Empire. Library of Congress, of course, has it in their National Film Registry. I checked the National Film Registry, and 0 Predator movies are in the film registry. But I think
explain.
So the first Alien movie, I think, is like a generational film. I mean, I haven't seen it in forever. The weird thing is I've seen all the Predators movies except for one multiple times and relatively recently. I've only seen 2 of the Alien movies, I also saw Covenant, but I kind of forgot about that. But I haven't seen the good Aliens movie since like 96 at the very most recent. Like the great movies I haven't rewatched, but not necessarily by choice, but I have been in the room and various Predator movies are playing a lot. Well, especially Predator 2 I had on VHS one summer when I had no cable, and I just watched that on loop for a while.
And that's what I was going to kind of ask you guys, because I think the time when the Predator movie, when the first one came out and things like that, you guys were probably about the perfect age for all of that. And that's why I think, and you guys, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, guys that are a little bit older than me are the ones who really kind of end up being the people that dig on Predator more so than other folks. That's what I think. A lot of Gen Xers.
It's funny you
Predator.
bring that up, man, because there is a certain type of person who is the big Alien or Predator guy, which is it's the same guy who really loves horror movies. It's the same guy who is quite honestly just to put it out there, a little bit smarter than I am, like in real life. And
that likes the Predator movies?
Yeah, well, the Alien movies specifically.
Okay.
But may also like Predator. And they just have a giant blind spot for this IP where, they'll argue you to death about why Alien 3 is such a great movie, and Alien 3 is okay, but it's not a good movie. And so those same folk, the ones who are just all into, and it usually is the Alien guys. I mean, quite honestly, the Predator, the people who are totally into Predator, there's not nearly as much of those as there are the Aliens folks.
Yeah, and like the people that are totally into Predator are into like 9 or 10 things more than they're into Predator.
Yes.
They eventually get around to it. Yeah. But they're Alien guys that, they decorate their house to look like the Nostromo or whatever, however you pronounce it.
Right.
I guess it was funny because watching this movie, it was the first time I ever kind of put it together in my own head. And I said to myself, oh, now that I think about it, Predator is kind of like if you're a Predator fan, just take this in the spirit which it's given. Predator's kind of like Aliens for dumb people. Just because it's like it's.
Well, I think to me, it's hard for me to find the right analogy, but like Alien is like this really well done sci-fi horror at a time you didn't have a lot of that. Like Alien has way more in common to me with John Carpenter's Thing than it does with Predator. Predator is like you take the sci-fi horror and you get to the slasher stage. Like he's the Jason Voorhees of other than that time Jason Voorhees actually went to space. Mm-hmm. Predators are like the Jason Voorhees type bad guys of space.
The closest the correlation I can come up with is that Predator is more like Star Wars fans and Alien is more like Star Trek fans. Meaning you can be a Predator fan and you're probably also an Alien fan. But there are people who are just Alien fans and not Predator fans.
And I think that's a pretty good analogy. And I guess the closer analogy with the horror thing is Predator to me, I would put along like I said, the slashers, whereas Alien is more Lovecraftian, like the very knowledge that this entity exists is the horror more than the actual slaughtering going on firsthand.
Yeah, I've always been an Alien guy. Huge fan of all the stuff, even the ones that don't work. I still like some of the things in those. Predator I never really got behind. I mean, I think it's a neat idea. I think the execution is too 80s for me in a lot of ways, and and if I want that kind of run and gun thing, I'll watch Aliens,
Well, I mean, come on, man. McTiernan shoots the first Predator. That's why the first Predator is so easily watchable. He was such a great director and just so easy to watch his movies.
Yeah.
And so, I get if you don't like the concept behind it, or maybe it's too slow for you.
I think the
whatever.
design of the creature is I love with the face mask off and everything, but everything about it just always seems so clunky, with the head being just as huge and giant as it is on the body. Mm-hmm. It's always seemed odd to me.
I like the character design of the basic character design of the original Predator just fine, and the way it's got the kind of claws on its mouth was always kind of cool to me. But you're just not going to top H.R. Geiger when it comes to something creepy in the dark. The whole phallic Grim Reaper that is the Xenomorph. That's just, that's once again one of the greats of weird, creepy art of all time is H.R. Geiger.
And it's not for nothing. It is more of an alien type thing than what we're used to seeing, whereas a Predator is a much more humanoid type creature than the Xenomorph is.
And I don't know, my parents, they didn't have many opportunities to get me what I wanted. So sometimes when they could, there were no questions asked. But I did have a really cool Xenomorph when I was maybe 7, 8 years old, which kind of a weird gift for an 8-year-old now, looking at the movie and the context and stuff. But I remember my mom thinking, wow, that head looks a lot like a private part. And I told her, oh, I didn't know that.
That's pretty much all of Giger's stuff looks like that. But that's kind of what he does. But I will say this. Now, this movie did have some cool moments, so I'll kind of spoil a little bit for me. Not a fan. But there was some really neat moments in this. I liked how they, the planting of the eggs and everything, and how the eggs hatch up. They did a really great job with that. I loved seeing one of the face huggers fly through the air at someone's face. I thought that was really cool. I'd never really seen anything like that before. So a lot of those little production decisions and stuff I thought were really good. The biggest problem for me in this entire story really is all of the characters. I don't care about anyone in here. Everyone is just a giant exposition machine, and in the worst of ways.
Yeah, they have pretty bad, clunky exposition. The worst offender, but you kind of needed a way to do it. And if you're going to have bad exposition, then the best way to do it is to just do it and not apologize. But he looks at 3 or 4 glyphs carved into the inside of this temple in Antarctica. He tells this extended story of the Predators making first contact. The people worshiped them like gods. Then they came up with this elaborate sacrificial ritual, and they return every 100 years. Man, first off, that story being told in the first person probably doesn't come across as third person as it came across. If you're an actual native of the time and place carving that into a wall, it's going to come across very differently, I feel. But it's very straightforward and literal with no mystery or riddle to it at all.
Everyone just knows it. It's like they can just decipher the Matrix from their living room couch and everything. They can see everything coming. They know exactly where everything is. Everyone has just the right thing to say. It felt like movie Mad Libs in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and also, man, I already mentioned John Carpenter, but going to Antarctica, that's going to right off the bat have people thinking this should be a crossover with The Thing instead of a crossover with Alien.
I'm trying to think of which. I'm just get rid of Predator and have The Thing versus Alien. I'm you want to talk about. But I will say this, too.
I like the idea behind it, though. I do like the conceit to why these two are fighting, why the humans are there. I like that part of it. I mean, it's not a great, it's not a great premise, but you're getting 2 monsters together. You got to have some sort of story.
And this is also one of those movies. It's, they don't have much to say, so they're going to say a lot of nothing, kind of. But they throw in the little bit of an Indiana Jones film. I could see not necessarily Raiders, but that's definitely Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Jonesville with that temple and the sliding stuff. Also, I'd said before that the Alien, the whole idea behind Alien to me is more Lovecraftian. And bringing this to the region of Antarctica also has echoes of Lovecraft's story called Mountains of Madness, with these giant penguins that don't have eyes and eat people, and these Antarctic explorers uncover basically some not meant to be uncovered Cthulhu mythos stuff.
What was that Lovecraft on? Was it bath salts?
Man, he was on chronic depression.
That'll do it.
So I got to talk about the thing that I can't stand the most about this movie. And as much as I love this actor, and I do love him, Lance Hendrickson should not be in this movie. And I get that he's in the Alien franchise because he plays Bishop. He is not Bishop in this movie.
Yeah.
He's Bishop's creator.
And they really had to go out of their way to try, the reason he's in it is he's like the only guy they could get that had a tie back, right? Sure. And then they came up with the idea, hey, this makes sense because why not make Bishop look like the guy who founded the company and all that kind of stuff. But to me, it had that real feeling, and this was maybe most prevalent in the 90s when like VHS rentals were at their high point. Cable was still not catching up. And there were a lot of direct-to-video movies that would work really hard to get like one guy or one lady from the original movie, no matter how small or peripheral the part was, and really try to build a sequel around that. It kind of had that old school feeling from about 15 years before this movie was made.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And what did the character bring that much to the proceedings? Not a ton.
Well,
he
will
coughed
say
a lot.
every scene that Lance Hendrickson is in, he does make better. I mean,
his acting is great because he's a great actor. And I guess around this time they were just like, hey, we heard Millennium is wrapping up here, and you don't have any projects. Would you like to be in this new Alien versus Predator film?
But the thing is, from the moment that we realize he's going on the expedition, we know he has to die. Like, he can't make it out of this expedition with any knowledge, or it totally undercuts the whole future of the Alien franchise.
It's true. As a matter of fact, I don't want to get too deep into the canon of this because, who cares? But this is present day, right? This movie is present day, so 2004.
Yeah.
And the first Alien movie takes place in 2025, I want to say. Is that right?
I thought it was like 21 something.
Yeah, I think it's
21, 25, something like that.
Yeah, somewhere I thought I saw that.
So, the fact that no one knows anything at all, little weird.
Yeah, but everybody dies. That's how you get around that. Everybody dies. Also,
not Alexa.
But Alexa's a predator now. She's not going to be sharing any knowledge about this with people.
True. You're right.
But one thing I'll say, this is one of those movies too, where like you look at it and immediately you say, okay, this has zero value in Alien canon, but it is like 100% straight up the middle Predator canon. There aren't many dual releases like that, but that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go, whoever's making this is a Predator fan for sure.
And I'm pretty sure that this AVP now means that the whole Predator franchise is just in that kid's mind from St. Elsewhere, right? Because wasn't the Wayland company in St. Elsewhere at one point or something weird like that?
I'm too young.
I don't know St. Elsewhere.
You know the theory, though, don't you?
Yeah, I get your reference to the snow globe, and it's the autistic kid. Yeah, I know all that, but I don't get the Wayland part.
Yeah, somehow I thought there was something that came through the hospital that just had like Wayland Corp on it, like intentionally they were just making a little wink and nod towards Alien.
Man, if Lance Hendrickson had been holding like a little thing with an alien head in it and just said Rosebud, dropped it, and it exploded, and then we go back to see what his life was like before, I would watch that all day long.
Yeah, I'd be good for it, man. If the snow globe turned into an alien egg, you say?
Or no, if it just falls and breaks. That's pretty much describing the plot of Citizen Kane.
Oh, Rosebud. Yeah. Okay. Oh, spoiler warning. Sorry.
It doesn't ruin the movie for people. I contest that to this very day. If you know what he's talking about, it's still fine. You understand things because you're an adult.
Are you guys as impressed as I am at how rapid the xenomorph life cycle runs its course?
Man, I was so shocked by that when I watched that today. Because it really is face hugger within a sleep cycle for a human being, rips out of the chest. Then from that, within a single 24-hour period, full grown alien.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Like they go for, I don't know, do we even get to see a chest burster during the main part of the movie? It's like they burst out and then you got a full alien running around the corner in a few minutes.
Well, you've got the one lady, which is good, and that was one thing that I did like. I loved the face hugger coming in, inseminating with them, and like you said, that quick turnaround time where it's like, oh, everything's fine. This thing's off of me. Maybe I just had a bad dream or something. Then which by the way, they shot that. I wish it was better. I wish that was shot better, because at first it's like, oh, we're going to have this cool chest burster scene and everything, and it's just fair. It's just fair.
And just the rapid growth too, but I don't see them eating anything. So like, how do you grow if you're not eating, and they're underground and they're in the dark, so it's not like photosynthesis or something. I just couldn't figure out like how they're getting the necessary protein and calcium and vitamins.
I got this.
From burster to full blown alien in like 20 minutes.
It's an alien, Bruce. It's not person. They're different.
It's like that meme. I'm not saying it's aliens, but
it might be aliens. It very well could be. Now,
so
outside
did you know that Schwarzenegger had agreed to do this if he didn't win the governor,
and that's what got him elected. The threat of him being an AVP.
I will be in this movie, and they're like, God, quick, elect this guy.
I don't know. I think this movie could have used a little Dutch.
Oh yeah, and apparently, from what I read, Ripley, Sigourney Weaver, she like hung up the phone before they finished the sentence.
That's great.
Like, nope, not interested.
Hi, we'd like to talk to you about Aliens versus... Hello?
Not to mention, how are you going to have her in 2004? Come on, people. That's when you're working too hard to shoehorn that cameo.
That's true. That's like some Alien Resurrection crap.
Oh, boy, I'm glad I haven't seen it. You're not speaking about it in glowing terms.
Hey,
no, it's bad.
It's,
Now, I'm going to tell you something I kind of liked. And I don't know if you guys like this or not, but I kind of liked how they took the carcass. The Predator took the carcass of a downed alien and like turned its head into a shield and its tail into a spear for Lexa to be like battle armed.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah, that was a touch I didn't see coming. I thought it was a really nice touch. And up until then, I never thought that, like, yeah, that does kind of work like a shield, the way that skull is shaped, and looks more like, for fans of the sport highlight, it looks more like one of those highlight scoops that they wear, but still works well.
Have I told you guys my highlight story?
No, let's do
junior
highlight. I'm kidding. There isn't one.
That joke's even funnier if you're a member of our patreon.com/HMP.
Highlight, very big in Portugal, from what I understand.
And Miami.
Yep.
My parents lived in Florida, and they used to go to highlight games and stuff like that in the 70s. So
did my folks. They went to highlight in Connecticut, for God's sake.
It's all over the place, man. That was the time.
Yeah, it's good gambling. Go Team Blue.
Now, outside of Lance Hendrickson, is there anyone in this that's like doing anything that's interesting?
Well, they don't give him long to do something interesting, but Ewan Bremner is pretty great in this movie too.
Can I confess something to you?
Huh.
When I was watching this at first, I thought, man, that guy's Scottish accent is so fake, it's annoying.
Right? That was exactly my thought. I was just like, this has got to be real because it's so bad that it can't not be.
Yeah, I think what it is like a real thick Scottish brogue. English audiences would almost need subtitles. American audiences would almost need subtitles for the English. So he's trying to like Americanize it so we can understand it, but still sound Scottish, and it's just not working well.
And it keeps surprising me because Tommy Flanagan keeps showing up in these movies we're watching. And
yes, he was in the set of all things.
Yeah, I know.
He's just got that face.
Where I'm like, how long has this guy been in the business for?
And I mean, he's your go-to guy if you need a guy with a horrible facial disfigurement. Yeah. I mean, that's a straight up legit Chelsea grin that he had cut into his face. So that's kind of impressive. He's a verified tough guy. But man, I didn't realize he had it cut into his face when he was like 15, because that's how old he looked in The Saint.
That's true. But yeah,
I guess his here it is. His first real big break is that he's in Braveheart, so that makes sense. And then from
gosh!
From there, he pulls. He gets into Bad Boys and The Saint and Face Off in The Game, and from there, he's just going to work forever.
Was he William Wallace?
I don't know.
Okay,
well,
he was.
He was actually in a movie that I just saw a couple days ago. The Tommy Flanagan there called The Wave, which was actually quite interesting. It's got Justin Long and Donald Faison in it. It's about a guy who takes some mysterious drugs at a party, and just the drugs keep coming in waves, and he wakes up and he's like, "What did I just do? What just happened?"
Oh, neat.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty cool, man. I'm also gonna say, having Mandalorian fresh in my mind, it would be pretty easy to convince me that these Predators were kind of like Mandalorians. Their armor has a little bit of that look to it. They have the mix of the super high tech and super primitive weaponry.
Yeah.
And I started thinking, Disney makes a few phone calls. We could have Mandalorians versus Predators as a movie.
Well, they own Predator.
Yeah. It's all Fox.
Do they?
Yeah.
Okay, because I knew this was a Universal movie. So I didn't know what went on with the Predator rights, if it's still a Fox thing and it just got licensed out to Universal, or Universal. I don't know how Universal wound up holding the ball.
I don't know. I don't get that either.
In that case, I'm not sure. I know there was a couple things. Alien definitely is under Disney at this point. Predator, actually, I'm not 100% on.
But it makes sense that Universal, though, the same film company that brought us the Wolfman versus Frankenstein and stuff like that. I mean, this does feel like another stab at Universal movie monsters, only they're sci-fi.
Which brings me to the biggest problem I have with this movie, which I keep forgetting to talk about, which is the movie is called Alien versus Predator. We get halfway through. We're literally halfway through the movie before you see the two meet up.
Yeah, but I put a little bit of that on Alien expectations. Like the movie Alien was built around that tension and the confined space and the claustrophobia. So there's got to be a little bit of that tension, they think, as they make this movie. They're trying to, I guess, play to both fans. But the weird thing is they show us an alien pretty early on. They just make us wait for the meetup.
Can I say this, Bruce? That is the most generous thing I've ever heard anyone say about Paul W.S. Anderson's work, is that, I think that they were going for... There's no way. Are you kidding me?
Man, I think Fox... I think Disney does own Predator, from the best I can tell from my limited research here. So Mandalorian versus Predators, man, that's a good fight. That's a good brawl, and pretty easy to pull off. Just long time ago, they're bounty hunters too. Predators are bounty hunters. Mandalorians are mercenaries. Oh yeah.
Anyone else always just think Troy Polamalu when we see the Predator at this point?
A little bit.
I always want to see him wearing that jersey and just kind of spear, diving on somebody and just being like, yeah, I got him.
Maybe.
All right.
A little bit.
It's like I said, I don't know that there's a lot to talk about, because essentially there's a lot of just pointless dialogue that all points to, let's talk about this for a second, because this seems like something Bruce would know a little bit more about than the average person for some reason. We were talking about it. Now he's a more well-traveled man at this point. Bruce, what was your thought when they talked about these pyramids and everything, but having designs more or less from several different cultures? I can't say that word today. All put together on one thing. Did that seem like they were just trying for whatever, or does that feel like a good storytelling?
Well,
tactic?
First off, I got to make a mea culpa that no, Alien versus Predator had nothing to do with Universal. I just wanted it to, I guess.
Okay.
No, it's Fox too. First off, the idea, that idea that's in this movie is not by any way, shape, or form an original idea of this movie. I think it was maybe in the 60s. There's this guy wrote a book. I think it's called Chariots of the Gods or something. He's sort of a archaeologist, sort of an alien freak. And he's the first one that said Egypt was built by aliens and stuff. And makes all the talk about the similarities of the pyramids. But then there's also people that are like, well, it's also a very basic, sturdy structure. If you're trying to build something grand, it's easier to build a pyramid than it is a straight up and down tower, you know? So some of it's just like, you know, common sense on building, even though they're difficult as heck to build, still easier than building something of the same size and spectacle that's like a straight up box or tower or something, I would imagine.
Yeah. It's either aliens or slave labor, one or the other.
Wish I could I'm trying to find the name of that guy that wrote, Eric von Daniken, who wrote Chariots of the Gods. And it's all this talk about how it was from 1970 was when it was written. And it's all about how aliens built the pyramids, all the various, you know, like Angkor Wat and Machu Picchu and Giza. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe none of those are pyramids, but those are names that seem like pyramids to me.
That seems like a pyramid name. A couple things, because I don't want to seem like I'm completely poo-pooing this movie, but because I don't particularly like it, but I want to point out a couple things. I like the whole that big, what I'm going to call the slide scene. I thought that was a really neat function. I thought just visually it was really cool having the big white tunnel and them kind of, you know, sliding down it initially and then, you know, catching Bishop there as he's about to fall, and of course the big triumphant mine cart out of it with Predator as it goes to explode, which is it's so stupid, but it's kind of cool. It's like, oh, that's so dumb, but yet so satisfying.
Yeah.
Were you satisfied that you had enough of aliens actually fighting predators? I felt like there weren't like good brawls. It was just a bunch of sneak attacks.
Here's the thing: it was badly shot. That's the whole problem with this and their meeting and everything, is that you don't care because it's not shot very well. You're not sure what's going on. It's a lot of close, medium shots and stuff, things that are shaking around, very, you know, very 2000s Paul Greengrass kind of stuff, but without that actual skill.
And also with the technological advantage that the Predators have, it just doesn't even seem fair. You know, it's just like, we didn't tame the buffalo. It was already tamed. We just shot it. You know, they come in with laser cannons and stuff, and the aliens only have their tails and their fingers to fight with. So I would have liked to see more like the aliens kicking a little bit more butt too.
They
like
also got bitey tongues. They got the tails.
Yeah, they got the inner mouth that jabs pretty well.
They also, I think there's they have some sort of sonar hearing. I'm trying to think of those alien games from back in the day. Because there were a lot of alien and predator video games and stuff, too.
I just would have liked it to be harder to take them down or something. I would have liked to have seen a prolonged battle between like 3 predators and 1 xenomorph. And I felt like it was a lot of mainly just kind of like sneak attacks and stuff. We did have a bit of a prolonged battle with the Queen. She was pretty tough.
Yeah, I thought the Queen was fine. At least they kind of kept more or less the same feel as they had in Aliens and Stan Winston's Big Giant Creation. I think that was, you know, that existing really helped this movie out because it gave them something that was very much tied into the franchise and everything. And it still looked really good. That was one thing I was definitely surprised about, is how especially like the alien stuff looked very authentic to those movies. It looked like those eggs came from Ridley Scott's Alien and everything. So I thought that was actually quite impressive for something that, you know, when you think about it, all these people got together and they're like, all right, we're doing an Alien versus Predator movie. Well, we need to get this stuff from this movie, this stuff from this movie, and we need to recreate it to be almost as exact as it was in those films. That's an undertaking. And to get it, you know, looking that good and that close, you got to applaud that.
And I also think that it was very gross watching those eggs get laid.
Oh, it was in the great sound that's in it that makes it even grosser. It's just like, oh, that's so good that it's just that ooh, gross.
It's incredibly well done, because I imagine its goal was to be kind of gross, but yeah, that was very, very well done practical effect.
Yeah, I will say, I found the music very lackluster, almost non-existent in a lot of places where it most certainly should have had some music. And I feel like they were like, oh, this is for great dramatic effect and everything. It's just like, no, it feels like you just didn't write any music for it.
Yeah, I didn't think about it at the time, but it is pretty lacking in that department. I don't usually look out for that. I notice it more when it's bad than when it's good music in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing. It's not. It is there. You just don't. It doesn't present itself.
Exactly. It's so generic
good.
And Philly and everything. And Predator's got some great music. Alien's got amazing music in it. So to hear this just kind of be a very standard action fare, little lackluster.
But apparently you can still purchase the soundtrack if you're looking for it.
Oh,
sweet.
My guess is this was a movie that had two soundtracks. They had one soundtrack that had all the music on it from the movie, all the orchestral stuff, and another one had like music inspired by the movie Alien versus Predator, and it's got like Limp Bizkit and Korn on it, and
it really would have been good for that, but no, it's only the orchestral one.
Maybe a rapper. Now I'm telling you, there might be another album. You only see the one. I think there may be another one. That's how these things worked.
This is like begging for mid-days Linkin Park to really have some sound.
Linkin Park action in there, of course. They were available at this time and kind of fallen off a little bit, so they were just like, yeah, we'll get in there and get some of that AVP, check. Come on.
It's all those guys from the Resident Evil movies. Let's get some of their pop songs in here, some of that new metal.
That's what I was really mad about, though, when it came to like the Mission Impossible 2 soundtrack. That was the first soundtrack I ever got really disappointed by, because I was just like, sweet, I'm going to get this Dust Brothers song, and then it had the rest of that crap in it. And it was just like, who wants this? It's so bad. It's just so bad. They're like, and Limp Bizkit's Mission Impossible theme.
That is one of the soundtracks that I hated the most also, because the first one was so great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I want to get that. Mondo put out that first Mission Impossible movie on vinyl soundtrack, and it looks like it's just a straight throwback for the 60s albums and stuff like that. It looks super
cool. Wow, that's neat.
I want to get one of those. Well, that's about it for all of this stuff, unless you guys have any other things that you want to kind of touch on before we get to all the other fun stuff.
They made her part of the squad, I was disappointed to find out she didn't return for the sequel, because that should have been like the premise of the sequel. She's part of the squad.
I think she saw this film and then we realized,
this thing made a lot of money.
Listen, I read, not adjusted for inflation or anything, but straight box office. I think I read it had the highest global box office of any Alien or Predator movie. Of course, that goes away quickly when you adjust for inflation. And
worldwide gross $172 million
on a 50 million budget. It was a really low budget for a movie like that.
Yeah, it's like a $30 million budget.
Yeah,
I mean, they made a lot of money with this thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Paul W.S. Anderson, say what you will about him, the guy does take a small amount of money and put big concept ideas and stuff behind that, and then usually deliver movies that make a lot more than what their actual budget and stuff was. And I think that's the reason why people go back to him over and over, is because while he may not be that big director, he's a director that can get it done and get it done within a certain amount of dollars and stuff, and that's important.
Those Resident Evil movies, you can make them for $30 million and they'll make $60 million global, and you don't really advertise them, and they do it themselves. So yeah, but I'm impressed that the effects look really good for a relatively low budget.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, honestly, the effects could have been a lot worse, and you don't look at a lot of things because when you look back at, say, Alien 3, when they were just really starting a lot of the CGI stuff, a lot of it looks like crap. And a lot of it looks like crap because they wouldn't let David Fincher do what he wants, and because that guy knows special effects, and that was the movie that made him go, I'm not going to direct anything unless I'm really behind it. So there's nothing like that here, where you see these really, you see all the seams, if you will. It's done well. So I can't fault it for that, for sure. But it's 2004. They should know better by this point. I'll be 100% honest. All right. Well, let's get down to one of the most important things of this podcast, and that is how this movie relates back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone.
Well, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement. Stephen Dobrik was one of 6 art directors on Alien versus Predator. And if you're planning on building an Aztec/Egyptian/alien-inspired pyramid, you could do worse than Stephen Dobrik. He's worked on Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance, the movie Troy, and the sad yet sweet Christopher Robin. I took a look around to see what I could find out about the man, but all I could find was his film credits. He's a ghost. So this week, we're going to look at the only place to go when you want to get actual scoops on a movie, IMDb user reviews. The following user review comes from someone choosing to call themselves Ebox Tree, and his review is entitled, An Utter Work of Genius. Paul Anderson obviously hates the fans of the franchises and has been hating them for a while now. He hates them beyond anything, and they must be made to pay dearly and suffer. So, as a brilliant plan, he manages to fraud the fools at Fox to give him the project. He did that despite the fact that his previous movies were laughable. Now, isn't that just genius? Anderson has made a joke out of every single thing that made the concept stand out. Your innocent curiosity will make you sit through his parody in hopes of some big twist, but it never happens. Scene after scene is one joke after another. How can anyone possibly imagine a bullet time mode for an alien attack? All this has been done very intentionally, and nobody realizes that. Once you've watched the movie, there's nothing you can do about it. You've lost, and Anderson has won. His revenge on fans is complete. He's also left room for a sequel by including a predalien birth at the end, further putting a big hole in future stories. He takes a ton of money, too. Genius. Or should I say, evil genius. Unless you want your interest in aliens and predators killed off, do not watch this movie. You have been warned. Well, thank you, Ebox Tree. Very insightful. Stephen Dobrik also worked as the draftsperson on 1995's Judge Dredd, a movie that stars a man who has been in more comedies than he has any right to be, Sylvester Stallone. And there you have it, HMPers. This week's Stallone Connection is art director Stephen Dobrik. You're welcome. I'm Sean Kovacs. You're welcome.
All righty, now we get to the rating of this bad boy, and if you'd like to see how this rating system works out, it's our Robin rating system. Check it out over at facebook.com/Hero Movie Podcast. Bruce, where does Alien versus Predator fall on the Robin rating system for you?
Well, first off, I'm glad that the Stallone Connection mentioned that a Predator did get a face hugger, and we had a burster of a Predalien at the end, because we totally didn't even talk about that in our comments, but I think that's worth mentioning. So
you mean the most obvious thing in the entire movie, and you were just like, well, I think I know what we're going to happen, and there you have it.
And also, just while that interesting Stallone Connection was going on, I looked up some numbers. The entire 6-movie Resident Evil franchise has a combined budget of $288 million, box office $1.2 billion. So if that was one movie that had that budget and box office, we'd be singing its praises. This movie, I liked it. I know you didn't like it, Adam. I thought it was fun. Like I said, I had my barometer set to 30 Days of Night. For some reason, I remember thinking, 30 Days of Night wasn't all bad. It's a fun little action horror movie, and then rewatched it and it was terrible. So I was like, I bet this is one where in my mind it should be fun, and then when I watch it, it won't be. But actually, I wasn't bored. And lately, that's like checkbox number one. You're going to go up a couple of Robin ratings if I'm just not bored. Had some good fights, some interesting stuff. I liked it so much that I want to mention that today, as we're recording this, January 26th, is International Customs Day, which recognizes the role of custom officials and agencies in maintaining border security. I think every January 26th, we do an Aliens versus Predator movie to recognize International Customs Day.
What? Where did we pick him up from? International Customs Day.
Next year for International Customs Day, we got to do AVP Requiem. I'm going to give this like a fun Damian Wayne.
Fun Damian Wayne. All right, Sean, what do you got?
This is a super, super low Damian Wayne for me. I fully expected to hate this movie, and I don't. It's not good, but it's not something where, I hate it with a blinding passion, which surprised me because I thought I would. So for me, it is a very, very low Damian Wayne.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go Stephanie Brown on this one. I didn't absolutely hate it, but it is 2 hours long, and it certainly feels like it's 3 because there's just a lot of... I don't like any of the characters. I don't really connect with any of them. They're all, few movies have everyone be a Mary Sue. Everyone knows everything, and everyone's pretty decent at all this stuff. Sure, it's a couple of bad things happen, but that's just plot stuff. But overall, it was kind of just boring, and the stuff I liked, I did like, but man, the stuff I didn't like certainly outweighed that one. We're going to Stephanie Brown on this bad boy. So that is it, everybody. That is your review for Alien vs. Predator. We're going to talk... we do want to say, again, thank you to everyone who voted for this movie and all the other movies over at patreon.com/HMP. Those people, of course, get to vote on what we watch every month. Of course, you also get the pre-show, post-show, and, of course, the Dinger Zone. And if you'd like to check that out and help support this show, there's a lot of things that, you could just frivolously spend money on supporting, people like us that try to, make your life a little bit happier every week. Throw a couple bones our way and get a little extra content while you're at it at the same time. Never really hurts. So we'll talk about what we're going to do next week in just a second. In the meantime, though, Bruce, where might we find more of your work on the internet?
Hey, tune in to Hero Movie Podcast 1 year from now to hear me talking about AVP Requiem.
Mark your calendar, Sean. Please have a better suggestion.
On Twitter at Sean Kovacs 4.
And, we'll have some more stuff coming up soon. Next week, we're going to be reviewing the first movie in the long series of movies entitled Lone Wolf and Cub, Sword of Vengeance. And if you're a member of the Criterion channel that's streaming on there right now, of course, based on a comic and all that kind of good stuff. So we'll have that connection and, of course, how it connects one-to-one with Sylvester Stallone. Good luck, Sean, on that one. You thought the animation was tough. Try having an Asian movie from the 70s. Good luck. So we'll be covering that next week. So thank you once again to everyone who supports over on Patreon, everyone who drops us a 5-star review on iTunes, a.k.a. Humdinger.
Humdinger, let's hurry up. Let's get out of here.
And that'll do it for us. For Sweet Chauncey, Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portrais. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.